The data that you just heard reflects today's non-traditional students. These students are working often 30 or 40 hours per week. They are commuting, they are parents, they are juggling multiple responsibilities. As a former community college administrator, these are the exact students that I worked with. And I know that you do too. These are your students. Every year, during new student orientation, I would often go down and help with registration. Here's what I saw. Nearly every student who went to register would start to build their course schedule based on the days and times that worked for them. Now, unfortunately, what they quickly realized is that the courses that they needed wouldn't fit in the days and times that worked for them. So they would have to choose a course, even if it conflicted with work, with childcare pickup, or even if it required them to be on campus from early in the morning until late in the afternoon. So while the student might walk away that day with a schedule in hand, what we saw is that the students would start going to classes, but maybe after a few weeks might start to drop off and then perhaps ultimately drop out because the schedules didn't fit their needs. What these students needed and what all of today's non-traditional students need are structured schedules. Structured schedules are a predictable, consistent schedule that students have for the duration of their degree program. Structured schedules can be block schedules. They are sequenced courses. They are courses that students register for all at once that allow them to enroll in 15 credits a semester or go year-round for 30 credits. Structured schedules can look like a lot of different things, whatever works for your institutions and your student needs. They can be morning, afternoon, or evening blocks, weekend blocks. They can be on certain days. They can be sequenced courses in shorter terms, whatever works. Now, here's the thing that many of us in the room might not have realized, and that is that scheduling is not an administrative function. Scheduling is a completion strategy. The way that you schedule your courses can either help or hinder your students from being successful. We know that structured schedules help drive momentum by increasing credit accumulation, increasing retention, increasing degree. So an example is from Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology. Students who do structured schedules are much more successful in getting to graduation than students who don't. There are a lot of different ways, as I said, to do this. And when we did a recent campus survey of our member institutions just this past year, one of our questions was, would you be interested in creating structured schedules and blocked courses? 70% of respondents said they would be interested. 70%. That's phenomenal. Unfortunately, we know a lot of institutions aren't yet doing this work. So one example of someone who is doing this work is the state of Texas. They passed legislation last year that required all 50 community colleges to implement structured schedules or block schedules for at least 5 programs by this fall, and they did it. And now that they're doing it, they want to do it more because they see that it's working for their students. So what I want to talk with you about today is not just what structured schedules is. I want to talk about how do you implement structured schedules to help your students. So our panel today represent people who are at various stages of implementation of structured schedules, and I want you to hear from them what they're going through right now to make that happen. So Letitia, we're going to start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about at Bishop State why you decided to implement structured schedules?
Well, of course, when faculty give the academic dean direction, what are you supposed to do? Do what faculty tell you to do. And so our faculty came to me and they noticed that a lot of our students were dropping out of classes in Monday, Wednesday, and Friday classes. And so they were like, maybe we need to look at a different structure. Our Tuesday, Thursday classes, students pretty much come to class. So let's go to more of a block scheduling where we offer classes Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday. And then we noticed, because we had several pilot programs going, that mini-term courses were courses that students were actually coming in, taking those courses, and moving on and progressing. And so faculty decided we need to offer more mini-term courses. And so that's basically why we decided to look at block scheduling. And of course, our community was awarded a Lumina grant. And of course, whenever you have funding around that, then you're able to, of course, speed up the process of what you're trying to do at your institution. So a lot of times when people think of Alabama, they think about that national football team called the Alabama Crimson Tide. But when you think about, well, when we think about, and when CCA thinks about Alabama, they think about Bishop State, because we're that dot that's on CCA's college-wide. Of course, all of you guys are tied to, most of you are tied to a state, but we're actually an institution, the only institution in our state that's actually tied to CCA. So we're excited about that.
That's great. So when you implemented structured schedules, your first step was that you needed to build academic or curriculum maps. Can you speak to that and the role that the faculty had in terms of making this happen?
Well, we appointed a faculty champion who's actually here with me today. Wave your hand. Dr. Kim Smith is our faculty champion. And basically, she was charged to meet with all the faculty and come up with curriculum maps. Dr. Elston was very good with CCA in sending us guidelines on how to put those maps together. And one of the great things about Alabama, we have a state articulation agreement with our four-year colleges and universities. So all the courses that a student takes at a community college automatically transfers to a four-year college or university. So we were able to take that framework and to actually speed up the process of developing our curriculum maps. And so Complete College America, Dr. Elston came in and trained our student services, our faculty, our students, and helped us to really speed up the process of implementing it. And then, of course, since we were already moving forward with the academic maps, it was very easy to adopt the 15 to finish. And so we're excited about all the work that we've been able to do in a matter of a year.
Absolutely. So I think you are a great example of structured schedules as low-hanging fruit. Yes. You get the buy-in and you start, and then you go from there. That's great. Saundra, at Ivy Tech, you all were already doing structured schedules in some departments, in some programs. Can you tell us about that briefly?
Sure. So about 5 years ago, the college made a commitment to move toward a structured schedule format for our certificate programs within our tech division. And as you can see, we labeled that our institute programs. And the intent was what you've already heard. We wanted to give students an opportunity to increase their credit attainment each semester, leading to that certificate and attainment as well. And our certificates are stackable, leading to an AAS degree as well. So you can see an example of Tuesday, Thursday, and Monday, Wednesday, or Wednesday and Friday. So we've had a variety of models of how this currently looks, and you can also see the results of that. We've seen significant improvement in our students completing.
Okay, great. So you had some examples, but you hadn't implemented it at scale. So talk a little bit about what led you to decide that you need to implement it at scale, and what steps you're taking toward that end.
Sure. So I mentioned it's been 5 years that we've had this in place, but it was for a limited number of programs. And as some of you may be aware, Ivy Tech is the community college of Indiana. We're somewhat large. We have 9 regions and about 32 campuses, and we serve about 150,000 students. So scaling something across the entire state can be challenging in that one size does not necessarily fit everyone. So currently we do, structured scheduling has been identified as a priority for the college. Some of the things that we currently have in place, we have a faculty and staff committee that are actually looking at this. And we also have a feasibility study that's in process. We just completed a survey of our students, and we are in the process of another survey for our faculty statewide. What we hope to get from this, basically, what do students want? What will they participate in, if we schedule it and we're able to do that, as well as what resources are needed, both human and physical, to actually make this happen and to scale it statewide. So we'll have more information, hopefully by the end of this semester, actually, about what is needed for the next steps.
Okay, great. So these are 2 very different examples of an institution that just the faculty realized the students needed it. Complete College America provided some technical assistance. You got your ducks in a row and you started it. And another institution that said, we're doing it, we see the data, let's do a study and research how we can get to scale. Now, George, at Volunteer State, you're in a different place. You've already implemented GPS, or the Guided Pathways Initiative, and you are now doing structured schedules, and you have been for about a year and a half.
Right.
So can you tell us a little bit about why structured schedules was the logical next step for you, and how it fits in your overall GPS strategy?
Sure. When we began GPS in a general sense, in 15 to finish, that we had created online all of the structured maps of recommending to students what they need to take the freshman year, sophomore year. And then we started looking at putting the students first. Why are they not able to complete the 15 hours? And we started to just do an analysis. And our campus, and I don't think it was unlike many other campuses, seemed to be a bit of a ghost town in the afternoon. That there were some assumptions on campus that the students only wanted to go to class between 8 and 1, that our students were not capable of taking 15 hours, some of the things that have been expressed yesterday. And so we started to really dig down deep and look at this and do some studies. And one of the things we'd found through our surveys, that students wanted a Tuesday, Thursday, Monday, Wednesday schedule. Those are the courses that filled up first. They also would like to have come to school between 8 and 3-ish, so to speak. And they would be willing to give a full day if they could get their schedule on a 2-day basis. So we started looking at this. We went ahead and implemented it fully. It worked real well. There wasn't without some explanation, some challenges to the faculty to radically switch from what had traditionally been just a morning and getting to be home by 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, to having to have, and what I just asked them to do was that there will be a way for a student to graduate going from 8 until 1. There will be a way for a student to graduate going from 1 till 6, and that we will offer it around what they need and not what we need or we prefer. And so far it has worked wonderfully. So, yeah.
Great. And so you had said it's a 2-day schedule, and you asked all of your department chairs to make sure that the courses that they offer are kind of within those blocks. And then can you speak to just a little bit about, since students are Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, what does it mean on Friday? And is the campus just dead on Friday, or what happens?
We do not have a 3-day weekend, so the campus is open on Friday. Faculty are required to do a portion of their office hours on Friday. We have supplemental instruction. We have all our tutoring services open. All of our committee meetings are on Friday. It essentially has eliminated the excuse that, well, I can't go to tutoring because I'm in class. I can't go to supplemental instruction because I'm in class. I can't come to the IE committee because I'm in class. And so Friday has really opened up the campus to get the work done that we need to do and to provide the services for the students that they can take full advantage of all the tutoring opportunities that we have. Now, we do still have some labs on a Friday, but because we just have so many classes, we couldn't. Some of them are very long, so we had to stick them on a Friday. But so far, the students have not complained for those that have a science major, STEM, having to come for a lab on a Friday. So it's worked out real well.
Okay, great. Tom, you're not from an institution.
No.
So tell us a little bit about who Ad Astra is,
Sure.
what you do, and how you think about scheduling.
Sure. Well, Ad Astra is focused exclusively on this little niche in higher education of scheduling, and it's really started with space management and room scheduling, but got into the business because my father, who's an architect, took our firm in a direction of specializing in higher ed and doing a lot of space utilization and master plan studies. And he knew from an early stage that scheduling was more than, and space utilization was more than about the space. It was about what it facilitated, which was instruction and learning. And so we've always focused on how scheduling can be a strategy on campus versus just this kind of contentious transactional process that occurs on most campuses.
Okay, so talk to us then a little bit about what it looks to you for scheduling to be a completion strategy.
Yeah, so the main thing really to focus on is this idea that students can show up at registration and get the courses they need conflict-free, and as this panel's been discussing, within their availability profile, which sounds fairly straightforward, but believe it or not, and our friends at Noel Levitz have confirmed this year over year with the student satisfaction survey, literally the #1 struggle that students have nationwide at 2-year public institutions, 4-year public institutions, and 4-year private institutions is their experience at registration. It's more frustrating to them than parking, it's more frustrating to them than financial aid issues, than affordability issues, than anything else in their entire educational experience. And if you think about it, the experience of registration should flow very naturally from all of your efforts that you're doing with the guided pathways and the GPS programs. Because essentially, those courses that the students are being directed to take need to be available in the schedule, or all of that hard work to guide them to do what they need to do really goes for naught. So that's really where we feel like all of this comes together in the schedule.
Okay, great, thank you. So let me open it up just for a minute to the rest of our panelists. What do you think about what Tom just said in terms of how scheduling fits in with other initiatives? I know, George, you've certainly seen that. I know, Saundra, at Ivy Tech, you're working on other initiatives as well. So can you speak a bit about your assessment of that idea?
Yeah, I do know that scheduling is a very frustrating part of a student's career at school, and we have utilized software with the block scheduling to make sure that students get everything they need in no longer than a 5-semester stay. And so, doing 15, but giving them an extra semester just in case they have to have something else. But everything revolves around a schedule plan that they fill out when they come to orientation. We lock it in, and the next step is it feeds to our college scheduler. At that point, it automatically, all the students have to do at this point is to select the days of the week and the times they want to attend. And because it already fed their schedule, you push a button and it generates every schedule that's possible. So if you add it online, it'll give you some online options. If you added one campus or another, it'll do that for you. And what that's done for us is our FTE went from about 11-something to over 12 because the frustration of, and I think we've all experienced this, you choose your psychology class at 8, but then you forgot about that English class you have to have,
right,
and it conflicts at 8 o'clock, And so you drop one, and by the time you're done, you just say, well, never mind, I'll take 9 hours. Or I'll try to pick one up later that never seems to happen. So making scheduling easy so they can get the courses they need to graduate on time is crucial.
Great. Saundra?
So I want to steal his idea, actually, because it makes actually very common sense, right, to be able to do that. So what we have, because we do have other initiatives that we have implemented certainly, and with our math pathways and trying to align all of our programs. So as I mentioned earlier, the structured scheduling with our certificate programs within our School of Technology is just certainly one piece of that. So we really are being very focused on, on our intent of what other programs at the college can we implement a structured schedule with, and to hopefully do some of the things, George, that you mentioned with how easy would it be to push a button, right, and do that, because certainly that isn't an issue in an area that students mentioned. For us as well, I had an interesting conversation with one of our deans of technology in Terre Haute last week. And so for scheduling from the administrative end, which is a little different from the student perspective, but and how you fit these blocks, of schedules together, it's been a bit challenging for his programs that really are in AAS that have gen ed requirements. Because what he's found for faculty, from a different perspective from students certainly, is that you might have a faculty who teach, and a program faculty who teaches in the morning, but then doesn't teach again, so it's not back to back. They may have to cede some time there for the gen ed instructors then to come in. Very strong proponent of it, thinks we're on the right track for that, so we definitely have some additional tweaking. And again, the resource. With what do we have and how do we, allot it in alignment so that we're making the best use of all of our resources.
Okay, great. Letitia, so I want to come back to you. You have just started this work, and for you, block scheduling looks like mini terms. Right. So can you walk us through that a little bit more of what a mini term is, and then talk about kind of where you are in terms of progress and next steps?
Well, a lot of our students, of course, test into developmental classes at Bishop State. We have about 60% of our students that test into developmental education courses. And so when we went to the block scheduling, we had them in mind. And so we decided to do a mini-term scheduling, 8 weeks, to actually do a course, and especially around mathematics and English. If we can get them through 2 developmental courses in 1 semester, then, of course, those students will be able to have the potential of graduating in 2 years. And so we decided to do that. And, of course, our students, they were able to meet the challenge. And we went into those classrooms because we wanted to know from our students, how do you feel about this? How do you prefer the mini-term course over the full-time course? And 91% of our students said, yes, we like mini-term courses better. 89% of our students said that they like attending classes 4 days or less, because when we went to the Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday block scheduling, our students really liked that. And different from you on Friday, we actually put some courses on Friday just to see if students would come, like a psychology course, those courses that are around our pre-nursing program, and those courses filled up fast. So we were excited about that as well. And then, of course, with the 15 to finish, we just launched it fall. 47% of our students are in 15 or more hours. And so I'm like the police. I go around to all of our students. If they're on campus and they're in class, I stop them and say, hey, are you in 15 or more hours? And if they say no, I'm like, well, who's your advisor? Because I want to see that advisor. And so we basically have adopted this. 15 is the new full-time. 12 is out the door.
That's great. I love that. Yep. So then tell us a little bit about whether other impacts you've seen in terms of financial, and kind of what your next steps are, your end goal.
Well, when you're putting something like this together and introducing it to your institution, you're going to have some naysayers. And so our financial aid director was a naysayer initially. Okay, so I wanted to interview him as well. I wanted to find out from him, now that it's up and going, what do you see? And of course, you can see that he changed his mind. because he found out that the students realized that taking those mini-term courses, they were able to save a lot of their Pell Grant money, because if you spend 3 or 4 years at a community college, you have no financial aid when you get ready to transfer to a 4-year college or university. So I am excited about what the future holds for this, because 2 and 3 years later from now, down the road, I want to see the financial impact for our students, and we're seeing some of that now.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Saundra, you told us about doing a study in order to scale up. Tell us a little bit about when your study is going to end and what your next steps are. What do you see happening?
So we should have all of our survey results at the end of this semester, and we'll compile those. We do have a committee I mentioned earlier that is comprised of faculty and staff across our state. And we'll take a look at this. And then again, just recently, this particular initiative is one of the key initiatives that the college will be focusing on. So we still have some work to do and what that actually means. And do we need additional funding, for this? How does it fit into our other initiatives as well? Because we've implemented COREC, and we have decreased our placement significantly from the 70 percentile to, in math now, less than 30%, in math with our math placement and our math pathway. So all of these pieces fitting together, we will be taking a look at all of that and analyzing what we have to determine the next steps. We don't have those yet, but the data will hopefully drive that decision.
Okay, great. George, you've been doing this work. You're not at the early stages of implementation. You're 1.5 years in. So tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in terms of results and how it's going in general.
Well, the first thing that I've noticed is that our campus is much more vibrant the entire day now. And so we are utilizing, from a administrative point of view, we are using room utilization is much more robust. We have classes filled throughout the day. So that was one aspect that was positive. The second aspect is, our students are getting the courses they need to be successful. There was something that was mentioned yesterday was that, oftentimes we take the most vulnerable students and we give them the longest path to graduation. And everyone will have some kind of life event during a 4-year period of time. And if they cannot feel like they can see the light at the end of the tunnel, they're more apt to just give it up. And so by them being able to accumulate the credits that they need in sequence that we've recommended has been incredibly positive. In working with the faculty, what I basically told them when we started this process, because there was a bit of resistance at first, said build the perfect major when you're structuring your courses. Was a history professor, and so if my advisor sat with me and said, well, look, George, I want you to take art history rather than just a general music appreciation course, because I think that will aid you in your career much better, then go ahead and put that in the schedule and build the courses that they need to be successful in their next course. And we have a very healthy health science program on our campus, from paramedic, respiratory care, sleep study. And those guys always had 99% success rates. And I use that as an example by saying, you know why? Because when you get entered into those programs, someone gives you a schedule and say, you're going to be here from 8 to 1, and if you don't like that, then you're not going to be a respiratory care specialist. And they are successful and pass the national exam. So why not do that with a English major and let them be successful too?
Okay, wonderful, absolutely. So we have a quick implementation with some technical assistance. We have a study to figure out what to do to scale. We have implementing it as part of a larger set of strategies. So Tom, let me turn back to you, and for the rest of us, for those 70% of institutions that said, yeah, we're interested, how do people do this?
Yeah, well, first, I'd like to challenge the other 30%. I think the notion of structured scheduling can be a lot of different things. It doesn't have to be pure lockstep blocks. I think we got to be thinking in terms of more structured, and for many institutions, it's not hard to imagine how to become more structured because it's pretty unstructured and pretty decentralized. So I think we get started by understanding what the students are already doing and starting to make some hard decisions about our most expensive and our most valuable resources, our faculty. How we allocate our faculty is really at the core of this. And by the way, I also want to make a quick pitch to not position this as productivity. I think the moment we start counting student credit hours by faculty and pointing at faculty members in this kind of a witch hunt, we say, you're not very productive. I mean, what are you going to do? You're immediately going to go on the defensive. You're going to lose these faculty champions that they're talking about. You need to position it as we as an institution are doing a poor job of allocating you our most valuable resources. And the way to do that, and the way to address some of the things that John brought up yesterday with the core classes, is to bring your full-time faculty into the core high enrollment classes and teach fewer of the special topics type courses with the very, very low enrollments. That is really the number one thing this is about. It creates critical mass of enrollments. It improves student success. It creates higher credit hour loads, which creates more tuition, which these institutions desperately need. It reduces our reliance on adjunct instruction and related costs. So there are a lot of wins, but it really comes down to looking at it as a way of aligning our faculty to students.
Okay, fantastic. All right. Well, if everyone will please join me in thanking our panel here today. So let me leave you with just some closing thoughts. Why aren't you doing structured schedules? This is a true momentum strategy that your students need. Today's students are juggling a lot. And even though the survey showed that the majority of institutions are interested in it, there is still a lot of room for people to begin to implement. And maybe there's a variety of reasons why you're not implementing it. Whether it's not a priority, or it feels complicated, or you think that maybe it requires technology, or that faculty would be against it. But all of those things you heard here today are issues that can be addressed. It can be implemented quickly. There are different ways to have faculty champions to do student surveys. You heard from Guilford Tech. Guilford Tech implemented structured schedules in less than a year. They had the curriculum maps, the academic maps in place. They basically got their faculty together and said, okay, let's get in a room, let's figure it out. And what they've seen is that while enrollment has been going down at their institution and across the state, that the programs where they implemented structured schedules are programs that are holding steady, because students have realized that they can do both school and work and life. So implementation is absolutely easier than you think, and Complete College America is here and available to assist you with that work. So what I'd like to do right now is leave you with some closing thoughts from students about at Bishop State, of what they found with the mini terms. And the majority of students are saying it works for them.